Hey, Shalom, Akim, Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving our glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. A sincere Shalom to the hopeful like this out there, listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom. Hey, Shalom, Akim. So basically, I saw some reels earlier, and I thought I might as well go into some of these because these are really good because they get straight to the point, and it's a lot of things that we already know, but we got to continue to bring them out because we can't forget how this man Esau is the devil. Okay, and with new news coming out, a lot of things going on right now. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of distractions, which, the elder was talking about that during camp, yesterday. There was a lot of distractions going on. You got the Epstein files. Now they want to bring out the alien files, talk about how there's aliens, so-called, which, the word alien just means foreigner. We know that those that drive the so-called UFOs, those are the angels of the Lord. And the UFOs are nothing but chariots, okay? Now we know there is blue beam and stuff like that, which there will possibly be a fake alien invasion, but you're gonna know the difference, man. We're gonna know the difference between a fakery versus the real deal. Because when the Lord comes, there's not gonna be any mistake, man. There's not gonna be any mistake. And just like you got this whole Mexico thing going on now. So they killed El Mencho, right? Who was supposedly, right, he was like a big narco over there in Mexico, leader of the cartels, so on and so forth. Okay, which as I said it before, and as we said it before, man, all of these cartels are controlled by Esau, man. Okay, when you hear about drugs coming from Mexico, it's not the Mexican people and the Mexican government. Okay, ultimately, it's the American government that does it. Okay, you could think about how so-called black neighborhoods here in America are filled with drugs, right? That's Esau doing it to destabilize our people. It's nothing but Black Wall Street all over again. Okay, and before I really get too far into it, I want to go ahead and play these videos, and y'all can see what's going on. So this is fair use for educational purposes only.
I live in one of the areas where some of these fires went down in Mexico today, and I'm telling you right now, it's a psyop. The CIA is behind the Nueva Generación cartel, and don't drink the Kool-Aid. They do this shit on purpose to Latin American countries all the time to cause civil unrest and cause destabilization in the country, especially when the country is standing up against the U.S. and gaining economic momentum.
You see what she said there? Economic momentum. Okay, like I said, Black Wall Street. You got to do your history, man. What was Black Wall Street? Okay, I got this article pulled up. It says the devastation of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. A wave of racial violence destroys an affluent African American community, seen as a threat to white-dominated American capitalism, you see? Right? So, long story short, okay, so-called African Americans built up their own communities that were doing much better than these so-called white communities, right? Because our people are the salt of the earth. Okay, our people invent everything, create everything, we innovate, we make things better. Okay, and basically our creativity, everything is just on a higher level. So of course, if Esau leaves us alone, eventually that little community would eventually become a bigger community, and eventually it would overthrow all the white capitalism, man. Because these devils, they steal everything they have, man. What is American culture? Just think about food. Okay, they don't have anything that they invented, bro. People say hamburgers and French fries; those came from other countries. Same thing with fried chicken and watermelon. And the stereotypes that people use against our people is because our people are very talented, man. Our people sold. They had to sell watermelons back then. Okay, so they turned that into a joke. Our people were very good with fried chicken, man. Okay, very good seasoning and stuff like that, and not just fried chicken, but everything, man. You've got barbecue, right? There's so many examples, man. But our people are just better than Esau, man, and that's why I brought out that one video going into the cross, and how the Romans basically the cross is a symbol of a phallic symbol, basically, man. All right, and when they burn crosses, the KKK, that's symbolic of burning a black male penis, which is symbolic of what? It's symbolic of the castration and the destruction of the black race, because the penis is what creates life, right? Because you come from your man's seed, or not your man's seed, your father's seed, right? You don't come from your mother. Your mother's just the incubator. Life comes from the man, okay? So, the destruction of the so-called black man is the destruction of the so-called black race, or there's no such thing as the black race. It's really Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay, as far as the dark-skinned people here in America, and of course the scattered seed worldwide. But what does it say on Black Wall Street, man? It says in 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma's Greenwood district, known as Black Wall Street, was one of the most prosperous African American communities in the United States. But on May 31st of that year, the Tulsa Tribune reported that the black man, Dick Rowland, attempted to rape a white woman. See, propaganda, man. We don't have to rape white women. A white woman will gladly disown her whole family to come get some black pipe, so called. Okay, we see many examples of that nowadays, man. All right? Let's keep it real, man. This is a complete lie. Propaganda. The same thing they say about our people, the so-called Mexicans. Well, really, we're all our people, but you know what I'm saying. Northern Kingdom. They say, so like I'm all over the place, man. It's been a long day. The so-called Mexicans, the Northern Kingdom, they say that they're grapists and that they sell drugs. They're just criminals and grapists, right? But who's the real grapists, right? Look at the Epstein files. It's all so-called white men up there who are graping millions of children, killing them, eating them, and just having their way. Okay, but no, not one so-called white man was arrested. Not one man from the files, right? But they could just make shit up about Jake. Oh, he tried to grape a white woman, so then they go destroy the whole town, right? How many so-called white men raped white women? They didn't destroy their towns. You see? It says Sarah Page. That was the name of the so-called white woman, apparently, allegedly, right? Whites in the area refused to wait for the investigative process to play out, right? Because they know if they would have investigated, he would have been innocent. It wasn't about a stupid ass white woman. It was about just Esau's perpetual hatred for Jake, sparking 2 days of unprecedented racial violence. 35 city blocks went up in flames, 300 people died, and 800 were injured. Defense of white female virtue was the express motivation for the collective racial violence, which that's a lie. And what does this look like? 35 city blocks went up in flames. That's exactly what you're seeing in Mexico, man. The same devil using the same play. You see? And this is a woman from there. So she knows what's going on, man. She sees it. Okay? Y'all can see how these cartels, they use American-made guns, man. How do they get all these American guns if they're the criminals, man? Unless America's paying them or giving them those guns. You see, it's all interconnected, man. I knew a guy who was in the Mexican military, and he said that's why he quit. Because he was going to lose his mind, and he said, literally, he said, I felt like popping my commander, like, with a blicky, man. He wanted to blow the head off of his sergeant, because they were doing an operation that basically were smuggling stuff into the U.S. and the U.S. Military was working with the Mexican military, man. You know, I don't know all the details of it, but I believe it was probably drugs or something like that. You know, but this is not unheard of, man, to those of us that are in the know. But we'll bring these out to wake up the elect and to show you, man, hey, this man is the devil. The scriptures told us these things were true, man. It's a perpetual hatred that Esau has against our people. Okay, let's get that precept real quick, man. Let's get Ezekiel. Right, so it's talking about Mount Seir. If we look at Ezekiel 35 and 2, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. Right, if you go into Mount Seir, it's just another name for Esau. And Esau, Edom, is the so-called white man, right? So now let's say, let's go down here. Actually, we'll read all this. This is all good stuff, man. This is all good money right here. Verse 3 says, and say unto it, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. So the Lord is going to destroy the so-called white race. The Lord is against them, man. You could read Romans chapter 9 for that also in the New Testament. So the Lord has never changed, man. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, right? Because didn't Esau lay our cities waste? Look, he's destroying Mexico. I live in one of the... He's destroying Mexico. He destroyed Black Wall Street, right? And he continues to destroy the so-called black community, man. Purposefully. It says, verse 4, I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. Right? So Esau is going to know that the Lord did it. Right? The God of the Bible. Verse 5, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel, who are the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end, right? Because the Lord ultimately had us become slaves in this world because we sinned against the Lord. We were sacrificing to idols, right? And basically the Lord had to punish us, man. But the iniquity was already, like the Lord had already punished us, but Esau, he just took it further, you know, because at that point, we were already in Esau's hands, and they just forwarded the affliction, man. They forwarded the affliction. Okay, and so ultimately, Esau has a hatred, man, against our people. Like it says here, a perpetual hatred. It's never ending, man. It goes all the way back to the time of the blessing, where the Lord gave Esau the blessing of the sword. Okay, this is Genesis. Salakia. I had it underlined. Stolen blessing, which is not really stolen, man. You know, it was the Lord's will for us to get the blessing. Okay. We're gonna go ahead. We'll start at verse 39. It says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. Right, that fatness going into that oil. You know who owns oil? You got the Rockefellers, right? You know, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, they own all these resources in the earth, man. They have the fatness of the earth. Okay. And by the sword shalt thou live, right? So Esau's rulership is gotten through his military might, through his weaponry. All right. It says, and shall serve thy brother, right? Because in the end, he's going to serve us, right? We had glimpses of that. We had a glimpse of that during the time of King David and King Solomon. It says, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break thy yoke from off his neck. So we're in that time now where Esau has the dominion, okay? And he has the dominion through his blessing, which is the sword, okay? As you can see, man, he doesn't outcompete us in resources or in talent or in creativity. He just goes and bombs the shit out of whoever is getting ahead or getting better than him. So basically, by murder, he's able to keep himself in the number one spot on the earth as, you know, what he calls the quote unquote the best country, right? Or the best economy, or the best, just having everything. Okay, so that's why people come to America from Mexico, because their areas have been destabilized in order to keep America looking like it's, oh yeah, it's just naturally better because these so-called white people, they're just better than everybody else. That's what people think. But if you go into it, the so-called white man, his blessing is the sword, and similar to the sword, he's also very good at deceiving and being deceitful. Right? He's a liar. And so what he does, he uses his media to make it look like, oh wow, these Latin American people, all they know how to do is sell drugs and beat people up, and they're just a bunch of monkeys, right? That's the same thing they say about the so-called black people here in America. But it's all a fucking lie, man. It's propaganda and the sword. That's how Esau keeps power. But as you can see, man, the Epstein files are coming out, and none of these media outlets are covering any of it. And none of these so-called white police are arresting anybody, man, because it's all controlled for that narrative, man. They got to keep the so-called white race in power and over everybody. That's what it's all about, man. All right? And ultimately, they have a perpetual hatred against our people. Okay? And the Lord gave them that blessing of the sword. Okay? And so we're in the time of Esau's rulership. Verse 41, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him, right? Because the Lord gave us a spiritual blessing, man. And Esau, he got a carnal blessing. So yeah, he's great with weapons and beating people up and lying and shit like that. Just carnal shit. But we're going to get spiritual powers. We're going to live forever. We're going to be immortal naturally. We're not going to have to drink fucking adrenochrome like these devils do, man. Torturing children and drinking their blood so they could live a few more years in this terrible world. Which for them it's a great world, because for them, they're hoarding wealth all the way at the top, to the point where not even all of their own so-called white people get to enjoy this blessing. Only the elites. You see, this is such a shitty people that they don't even share their blessing with all of their people, man. Yeah, of course, you got Edomites at the bottom that, they have their so-called white privilege, you know. But the elites really got one over on you lower level two-time losers down there, man. You bottom of the barrel Edomites talking about Trump is playing 5D chess and Trump this and Trump that, and oh, it's the left. Oh, who did you vote for? This is who you voted for. Oh my God, and all the dumb shit these Edomites say, you know. But yeah, man, look at this. We're going to read it again. It says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, right, in his mind, the heart goes into the word mind, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So there's that murderous spirit, the same spirit that was in Cain when he killed Abel. Okay, we know that Cain was given the mark of leprosy, which this is how you identify who these people are today. The so-called white race, they don't have any melanin in their skin. So Cain was reincarnated through Esau, and that's why Esau came out red, like the scriptures say. When a white person laughs, a so-called white person laughs, their face turns red, doesn't it? You see? So we're going to go ahead and keep playing a few more of these. And
the areas where
says X-ray footage released by U.S.-Mexico Border Patrol linked to the Epstein case. Yeah. So, another point I want to bring out. So, who do you think is trafficking all these children to Epstein Island and all these other islands and all these other underground bases and other places? Because Epstein Island is just like a grain of sand in what's in an ocean or in a beach of pedo islands, right? So who's bringing these kids to them? Clearly, it has to be these gangs, man. They're the ones that specialize in this type of underground activity and trafficking. And it would make perfect sense that the U.S. controls these gangs, man. You know, our people will sell out for anything. So our people over there in Mexico, you know, Esau give them a bag and they'll join these or they'll become like the leaders of these gangs, and then those gang leaders will recruit whoever the hell they want from there. And then boom, now you got a group of thugs that Esau can make the face of crime while he sneakily traffics all these women and children and even men, all right, and does whatever he wants with them, man. You see? Yeah, man. You could put it all together, man. You know, the destabilization of these Latin American countries, the destabilization of so-called black neighborhoods, man. That's why they call it the hood, and there's a lot of crime there. That's the so-called white man at work. Because if you left those people alone, our people, so-called the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, right? They would end up creating very prosperous neighborhoods, and the so-called white man would end up looking bad. You see, that's why before they lived in caves, man, nobody wanted these people in their countries, man. And they still don't. Look at the so-called JEWs. They're banned from all these countries over there in the East, man. They're banned from a lot of different countries. People don't even want them in their countries, man. That's why they had to come up with the term anti-Sem, you see, to protect themselves, because nobody likes these people, man. All right? They're hated of all people. It's just like Cain was a vagabond on the earth. He was going from place to place like a delinquent, man, and that's what the so-called white man is. He's a delinquent. He's going from place to place trying to avoid his judgment, but ultimately it's going to catch up on him, man, and the Lord is going to destroy this devil off the face of the earth, man. It's the only race on this planet that will not receive mercy, because look what they do, man. Instead of letting the rightful people rule, they want to rule through force and just just the way they do things is grievous, man. It's like here we got a world there where everything's free, water, food, but he put a price tag on it and throws away millions of pounds of food and makes it so that if you don't succeed in his system, he's gonna starve you out, or force you to end up in a prison, which he profits off of, right? The prison industrial complex, man. They gotta fill up them prisons to make money. What kind of a Ponzi scheme system is this, man? Only the lowest race on earth could even think of such a despicable way to rule a planet, man. This shit is sick. This shit is truly sickening, man. When you really open your eyes and just see even a little bit, man. A lot of you people out there have your head up your asses, man. You really don't know what's going on. And we knew this forever, man. We've been knew this, but we're bringing it out now again through the Spirit, because I feel like, okay, well, now that it's been proven and it's mainstream and people could actually do more research and people could actually, look into things. Okay, we don't have to sit here and go into a 10-hour video just to prove one of these things, man. It's plainly obvious that everything we're bringing out in these videos is 100% fact. And we don't need to do a peer-reviewed study on the fact that, these gangs are smuggling people, and ultimately the rich billionaires here in America and worldwide, which are all so-called white men, they're the ones who take advantage of these children, man. They're the ones who enjoy that. And then what do? All the dirty work gets placed on Jake. Jake is made the face of crime. Like, we're the ones who do all this evil shit. It's like, no, man, that's you guys. You guys have the power. You guys rule the earth. So if the world looks like shit, it's your fault, man. You're the race that rules the world, man. It says it's easier to blame Mexican corruption than to admit that every cartel is armed with American guns, funded by American dollars, and fueled by American addiction. Right. That's another thing, man. People in Mexico are not drug addicts like they are here in America. Well, why is America so full of drug addicts? Because America is a miserable place. because of the people that rule it. And it's miserable on purpose because misery is great for money. It's great for capitalism, man. If you feel like shit, you're not gonna stay at home and cook a nice, healthy meal that's cheap, or inexpensive rather. No, you're gonna go to the pizza shop and order a fucking large pizza and a tub of ice cream and some liquor, and you're gonna drown your misery in that. Hell, you might even go to a convenience store and buy it and pay double price just because you don't feel like going far. That's great for the economy that's built on capitalism, right? And that's just talking about, junk food. So now, of course, drugs comes into the mix. Okay, you make your paycheck in this miserable place, right? Your woman is yelling at you because of feminism, right? You're paying child support. You're overworked and underpaid because of capitalism, right? You're a Jake and you can barely find a job. Whatever your situation is. Oh, but the dealers, he's got some weed, he's got some crack, he's got some whatever. Boom, you go get you some of that bullshit and you become a customer, right? And the funny thing is, Esau is actually the biggest drug addict, man. If you think about it, most drug addicts are Edomites. See, so even in oppression, our people are not as brain dead as these Edomites, man. They'd rather kill their own selves and their own bodies. Not only do they use the most illegal drugs, they also use the most legal drugs, like in the medical industry, man. These Edomites are, they can afford it. They'll be on 10 different pills and shit. And it's like, just change your diet, dude. But see, these Edomites, they're not natural people. They don't like to do things the right way according to the laws of Yahweh Shem Shai. They rather just do things the artificial way. And so they've created a system for that. But as you can see, the system doesn't work, man. The medicine, I'm going to have to cut that out. The pill pushing industry is a very toxic system, as we've gone over in other videos, man. A lot of people die from those prescription medications, so on and so forth. But anyway, we'll keep going. And actually, I think that's probably all we're going to go into. Yeah, that's all we're going to go into for now. I want to grab some precepts, man. This is Micah chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds." Right? So these international banking families, these Edomites, what they'll do is they'll lay in bed and think up of all these different ways to fuck up Jake. Because again, they have to keep our people in a low state. Okay, first of all, they got to keep us sinning. And second of all, they got to make life as hard as possible for us. Just to keep us from, beating them at their own game. All right, it says, "And work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it," right? So then at night, they think about what they're going to do. And in the morning, they get up and it's like, all right, it's time to get to work. It says they practice it because it is in the power of their hand, right? They do this wickedness just because they can. Verse 2, "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage," right? We saw that during the transatlantic slave trade, when they stole this land from the Native American Indians, right? And even today, recently you had Black Wall Street, right? They took those houses away. They oppressed that neighborhood or those neighborhoods. Same thing you see in these Latin American countries, man, like with these videos that we just went into. Okay? It says, verse 3, "Therefore thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family," against what family? These Edomites, man. "Do I devise an evil from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil." Okay, so the Lord is going to fuck you Edomites up, man. All right, the Lord is going to fuck you Edomites up for all the wickedness you've done, man. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5. "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine," right? That's, again, that deception, right, that he pushes on the world. Well, not necessarily deception, but he uses deception to push what? To push his philosophies, right? That's the wine. The wine is the philosophies, and he uses his deceptive media. He uses foreign policies, right? Where he writes it into law that you got to spend 10 billion in this country over here to push Moism. Try to convince the young children that it's okay to be a man to sleep with a man and a woman to sleep with a woman, and it's okay to for a woman to boss her husband around. And they push all these weird philosophies. They call it human rights, but if you look at them and you actually study it, these things are anti-life. They push these in all these countries around the world. They push it here in America, right? It says he is a proud man, very proud. Okay, you see, they think they're better than everybody. They think they're the best race. They think that they're never gonna go down, but the Lord is gonna take them down, man. The Lord's word does not go out void. It says neither keepeth at home, right? He's over there in Mexico. He was over there in Venezuela, right? It's the same pattern, man. He sees that oil in Venezuela, kidnap the president, and blame it on drugs. They didn't stop any of the drugs coming over there or from over there, bro. It was literally just to steal the oil, and now they're gonna steal something from Mexico, and also create distractions, man. You see, making Jake the face of crime, so on and so forth. It says, neither keepeth at home who enlargeth his desire as hell, right? Hell is the grave, right? And so, as you can see, there's no end. You could keep burying bodies forever, man. There's no end. Okay, that's how insatiable the so-called white man is. He will never stop until he has it all, and then he'll still want more. It says, and is as death and cannot be satisfied, right? He cannot be satisfied. But gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people, right? He will not stop until everybody's in digital slavery. That's why he's going to mandate the mark of the BEAST for buying and selling, which we told you already is the micro C-hip. It goes in the hand, and then also the brain-computer interface that goes in the brain, right? You've got Neuralink, you've got Synchron. These things are already here, but they're creating the NWO. They're replacing everything with AI. They're bringing out these robots. They're bringing out these drones. Camera surveillance is more prominent than ever before. And so this system is ready, man. The social credit scores, the digital IDs, all they need is one big chaos, and they can say, well, you need to get your chip by such and such date. And that's the fulfillment of Revelation 13 and 16, man. Very quickly they're gonna chip up most of the world, just like they jump shotted most of the world during the C-19 situation. Okay, that was a trial run to see who's gonna be compliant to that system and who's not. So ultimately, man, these Edomites are being exposed, man. The Lord has exposed them to such a degree that everybody knows what they're up to, man. Everybody's waiting for the next conspiracy theory because it's a fact ultimately. Okay, these so-called white people have been exposed. All right, which the scriptures talk about that. Let's grab Habakkuk. Well, here in Habakkuk 2, here in verse 16, it says, "Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered," right? Filled with shame for glory. And in my Bible, there's a footnote that says, filled with more shame than glory. Because, the so-called white man's kingdom was glorious. They were the most powerful people in the world. Okay, but now the files have come out. All these different psyops, all these different false flag events, all the lies, all the capitalism, all the oppression of the people of the world, especially the Israelites. People are saying, damn, these people ain't shit. The only thing these people have is military might. So they're ultimately filled with more shame than glory, man. It's like, what is having power if you're an evil demon? if you're just a cancer on the earth, it's like, okay, so you just exist just to be over everybody. That shit ain't right, man. These people just need to be taken out. All right, it says, drink thou and let thy foreskin be uncovered, right? That's showing you symbolic of them being exposed. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing on thy glory, man. That right hand, that's the punishment we had to go through, man. Slavery. Esau is going to go through it. And shameful spewing on thy glory, right? Even you got it so-called white people exposing these devils, man. You know? That's why the scripture says their own tongue, man. Their own tongue will fall upon themselves, man. Roughly paraphrasing. Let's grab that. Psalm 64:8. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. You got a lot of so-called white people, truthers. And they're all exposing these so-called white men, man. You even got so-called white women who hate the so-called white man now. They say the so-called white man is the problem. And they are. You see? It says, all that see them shall flee away, right? And people, all that see them shall flee away, man. People know you see a so-called white person, you better be careful what you say and do around them, man, because they're always looking to fuck with you, trying to see how they could trap you somehow, some way, especially if you're Jake. All right? These small hats over there causing all these wars and all these problems, man. That people don't want to be around you Edomites, man. All right, especially these elites, man. People are seeing what the elites are doing. Everyone's fleeing away. All right, it's not about it's not like it used to be, man. Everything is being exposed. The Lord is setting the stage for judgment, man. So now everybody knows why America is going to be destroyed. It's not going to be destroyed and people are going to wonder why. It's going to be destroyed. It's going to be plainly obvious why it deserves that great destruction, man. This is Psalms 10:3. It says, the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire. Right? All their desire, they're talking about, oh, we want to go to space. We want to have domination over the people. 500 million people, right? The Georgia Guidestones. Oh, yeah, we need more surveillance. Everybody needs to wear a chip in their brain so that they can all communicate and, become immortals through AI and technology. And, we created technology, us, the Edomite. Well, they're not going to say it like that, but you already know they're proud. They think like they did it, right? Like they're the greatest inventors, right? It says, and blessed the covetous, whom Yahweh abhorreth, right? They bless covetous people, right? The more greedy and cunning and wicked you are in this society, the more money you're going to make, the more blessings in this world you're going to get as far as, money is concerned, man. But you come with a humble spirit doing what's right. Esau looks at you like you're weak, like you're disgusting, like something's wrong with you, like you're soft. You see, because this man doesn't have wisdom, man. This man doesn't have the ability to see afar off. They just want everything now, now, now. Gimme, gimme, gimme. You see, it's like a child, man. A child does shit because the child thinks he can just do it. Like your child will tell you, oh, well, don't go to work today, daddy. And it's like, I can't just do that, Now the child, if he was in your position, he would do it. And then he would get fired and you'd be confused. That's how these Edomites are, man. They're going to destroy all this, cause all this destruction. And then they're going to be surprised when the Lord destroys their ass, man. Just like a child. But, these people are just completely reprehensible, man. All right? This is Psalms 94:20. Shall the thorn of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by law? Framing mischief by law, man. All right, you can see that with, like I said here, man, with the Black Wall Street situation. All right, they should have gave reparations, but they're not gonna, they frame other laws, to fuck our people up, systematic oppression, but they're not gonna frame anything righteous, man. It's always some oppressive bullshit, man. Like these new laws with ICE out here. Which surprisingly enough, man, they're not even putting that into law. They're breaking their own law by having ICE come out here and do what they doing, man. But, there's plenty of examples of them framing mischief into law, man. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I don't want to go too long. I don't want to go too long. Really, just want to see what else. Oh yeah, we have one more video real quick. Not even a video, just a picture. That's not it. Right here. So it says Mexicans spray painted J-ish whore on the National Palace gates in Mexico. Right, because again, Claudia Sheinbaum, which is the president of Mexico, is a J-ish person. Okay, as you can see, this is why Mexicans, so-called Mexicans, do not have any power in their own country, because they have a foreign leader. Okay, so as you can see, the so-called white man is written all over the nation of Mexico, man. This is the so-called white man's world. That's why it's in shambles, man. They destroying all these third world countries. They destroying their own countries. All right, and it's just like, how much more do we need to expose this devil for you Jakes to get it? That everything is the so-called white man's fault. It's clear as day, man. I'm gonna say it like that, man, because it can be said that way. It can be said that way. All right, but anyway, with that, I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rachakodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like this out there, listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom wa. Abba Babal. Shalom.